The champagne flute trembled in Maya Mitchell's hand as she stood at the edge of the opulent ballroom, watching her cousin Monique's fairy tale wedding unfold before her. The borrowed navy dress, 2 sizes too big and held together with safety pins, felt like a costume she had no right to wear among Atlanta's elite. Maya's fingers unconsciously smoothed the cheap fabric as she observed the sea of designer gowns and tailored suits. She shouldn't have come. The freelance translation work barely covered her studio apartment rent, let alone the gas money to drive here. But Monique had insisted, and Maya couldn't disappoint the only family member who still called. She was about to slip out unnoticed when 2 men in charcoal suits brushed past her, speaking in rapid Korean. Maya's breath caught as their words registered in her mind. Eliminate the problem tonight. Make it look like an accident during the reception. Her blood turned to ice. Someone was going to die at this wedding. Maya's eyes frantically scanned the crowd until they landed on a man across the room. Tall, impeccably dressed, with an aura of dangerous authority that made others unconsciously step aside. She had to warn him, even if it killed her. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs as she weaved through the crowd of wedding guests, her eyes locked on the mysterious man who commanded the room without saying a word. Hyun-wook Kim stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows, his perfectly tailored black suit emphasizing broad shoulders and a lean, powerful frame. His dark hair was styled with precision, and when he turned slightly, Maya caught sight of sharp cheekbones and eyes that seemed to catalogue every person, every exit, every potential threat. She'd never seen anyone who radiated such controlled danger. The 2 men in charcoal suits had positioned themselves strategically around the ballroom, and Maya realized with growing horror that their target had to be him. Everything about his posture, the way security subtly flanked him, the deference in others' body language, this man was someone important, someone worth killing. Maya's palms were slick with sweat as she approached, her mind racing through possible Korean phrases. She'd spent years perfecting her pronunciation, but she'd never had to use the language to save someone's life. "Excuse me," she said softly in English first, stepping into his peripheral vision. Hyun-wook turned, and Maya felt the full force of his attention like a physical blow. His eyes were the color of dark coffee, intelligent and assessing. She watched him take in her appearance, the ill-fitting dress, the nervous energy, the way she clearly didn't belong among the wealthy guests. "Yes?" His voice was deep, accented, with an undertone that suggested he wasn't used to being approached by strangers. Maya glanced around quickly, then leaned closer and switched to Korean, her voice barely above a whisper. "The men in charcoal suits by the bar and near the entrance. They're planning to eliminate someone tonight. Make it look like an accident. I think it's you." The change in Hyun-wook's expression was instantaneous. His entire body went still, but his eyes sharpened with laser focus. When he responded, it was in perfect Korean. "Who are you? How do you know this?" "I overheard them talking. I speak Korean," Maya replied, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't know who you are, but you need to leave. Now." For a moment, Hyun-wook studied her face with an intensity that made Maya feel exposed, as if he could read every secret she'd ever kept. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. "What's your name?" he asked, switching back to English. "Maya Mitchell." She glanced nervously toward the men who were now moving with purpose through the crowd. "Please, you have to go." "Maya," he repeated, as if testing how her name felt on his tongue. "You just saved my life." Before Maya could respond, Hyun-wook's hand settled on the small of her back, firm and warm through the thin fabric of her dress. "Stay close to me," he murmured, then spoke rapidly in Korean to someone over his shoulder. Maya turned to see a younger Korean man materialize beside them, young Jae-shin, though she didn't know his name yet. He was handsome in a boyish way, with concerned eyes that darted between his companion and Maya. "Boss, we need to move," young Jae said in Korean. "I count at least 4 of them." "The woman comes with us," Hyun-wook replied firmly. "She's a witness now." Maya's stomach dropped as she realized the implications. "Wait, I don't want any trouble. I just wanted to warn you. Too late for that," Hyun-wook said, his grip on her back becoming more possessive. "You involved yourself the moment you spoke to me." The sound of shattering glass echoed from the far side of the ballroom, followed by screams. Maya watched in horror as chaos erupted, guests diving under tables, security shouting orders, the sharp crack of what might have been gunshots. "Move," Hyun-wook commanded. And suddenly Maya was being guided through a service entrance she hadn't even noticed, young Jae clearing their path with efficient, deadly grace. They emerged into a service corridor, and Maya found herself pressed against the wall as Hyun-wook caged her in with his arms, his face inches from hers. "Listen to me very carefully," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "You just witnessed an assassination attempt. You can identify the shooters. That makes you either an asset or a liability." Maya's breath came in short gasps. "I won't tell anyone anything. I'll forget I ever saw you." Hyun-wook's laugh was dark, humorless. "It doesn't work that way. They saw you talking to me. They know you warned me." His thumb traced her cheek, surprisingly gentle. "The question is, what am I going to do with you?" "Boss," young Jae interrupted urgently. "Cars are here." Hyun-wook stepped back, but his hand found Maya's wrist, his grip unbreakable. "You're coming with me, Maya Mitchell, for your own protection. I can't just leave. You can and you will." His eyes met hers and Maya saw something that chilled her. Absolute authority. The kind that didn't accept refusal. "Because the alternative is that I leave you here, and those men will find you within the hour." Maya looked back toward the ballroom, where she could hear sirens approaching. Her cousin's perfect wedding had become a crime scene, and somehow she'd become part of it. "Who are you?" she whispered. Hyun-wook's smile was sharp as a blade. "Someone you should have stayed away from." But as he led her toward the waiting cars, Maya caught something in his expression. Surprise, maybe even admiration. As if no one had ever risked themselves to save him before. As if her warning had changed something fundamental between them. The last thing Maya saw before being helped into the back of a black sedan was her cousin Monique, still in her wedding dress, giving a statement to police officers. Maya had come to the wedding in a borrowed dress, feeling like an outsider. She was leaving as something else entirely. Maya's first thought when she woke up was that she'd died and gone to some kind of minimalist heaven. The bed beneath her was the softest thing she'd ever experienced, covered in Egyptian cotton sheets that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a stunning view of Atlanta's skyline, and the room itself was decorated in muted greys and whites with touches of warm wood. Her second thought was that she was definitely a prisoner. The borrowed navy dress had been replaced with silk pajamas in deep emerald green, and her few belongings, phone, wallet, keys, were nowhere to be found. When she tried the door, it opened easily, but she could hear voices speaking Korean in the hallway beyond. Maya wrapped her arms around herself and moved to the window. The house, no, mansion, sat on what looked like several acres of manicured grounds. She was at least 3 stories up, and even if she could somehow climb down, the property was surrounded by high walls topped with security cameras. "You're awake." Maya spun around to find Hyun-wook standing in the doorway, and her breath caught. Gone was the formal wedding attire. Instead, he wore dark jeans and a white button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing strong forearms marked with what looked like a small tattoo in Korean characters along his neck. His hair was slightly mussed, as if he'd been running his hands through it, and the effect was devastatingly attractive. "Where am I?" Maya demanded, proud that her voice didn't shake. "Safe." Hyun-wook entered the room, closing the door behind him. "How do you feel?" "Like I've been kidnapped." "Protected," he corrected, moving to stand near the window. "There's a difference." Maya laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Is there? Because I can't leave, can I?" "Not yet. And my phone. Secured, along with anything else that could be used to track you." Maya sank onto the edge of the bed, the reality of her situation hitting her fully. "This is insane. I have a life, responsibilities. People will be looking for me." Hyun-wook's expression softened slightly. "Your friend Jasmine thinks you're visiting family out of state. Your landlord received next month's rent early. Your translation clients have been informed you're taking a brief sabbatical." The casual way he rattled off details about her life made Maya's blood run cold. "You investigated me. I protect what's mine." The possessive way he said it made something flutter in Maya's chest, even as her rational mind screamed warnings. "I'm not yours. I don't even know who you are." Hyun-wook was quiet for a long moment, studying her face, Then he moved to the chair across from the bed and sat down, his posture relaxed but alert. "My name is Hyun-wook Kim. I run an organization that handles specialized business interests in the Southeast." Maya's translator brain immediately began parsing the euphemisms. "You're a criminal. I'm a businessman who operates outside traditional legal frameworks." "That's the same thing." "Is it?" Hyun-wook leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "Tell me, Maya Mitchell, what do you know about justice? About protecting people who can't protect themselves? I know that kidnapping innocent women isn't justice. And what about stopping men who traffic children, who force women into prostitution, who flood communities with drugs that destroy families?" His voice remained calm, but Maya caught the steel beneath it. Sometimes the law isn't enough. Maya stared at him, trying to reconcile the man speaking passionately about protecting the innocent with the one who'd essentially taken her prisoner. "So you're what? Some kind of vigilante?" "I'm someone who understands that power without purpose is meaningless." Hyun-wook stood and moved to the window. "The men who tried to kill me last night work for Akira Suzuki. He's been expanding his territory, taking over legitimate businesses and turning them into fronts for human trafficking. And you're trying to stop him?" "I'm trying to eliminate him." The casual way he said it made Maya shiver. "By killing him, if necessary." Maya was quiet for a moment, processing. "Why are you telling me this?" Hyun-wook turned back to her, and Maya was struck by the intensity in his dark eyes. "Because you saved my life without knowing anything about me. Because you risked yourself for a stranger." He paused. "Because in 15 years of running this organization, no one has ever done that." There was something vulnerable in his admission, something that made Maya's chest tighten. Anyone would have done the same thing. "No," Hyun-wook said quietly. "They wouldn't have." A soft knock interrupted them, and young Jae entered carrying a tray of food. He bowed slightly to Maya, his expression polite but wary. "Young Jae Shin," Hyun-wook said by way of introduction, "my most trusted advisor." Young Jae set the tray on a small table near the window. "The perimeter is secure," Moon-hee reported in English, though Maya caught him glancing at her uncertainly. "But we intercepted communications suggesting Suzuki's people are actively searching for her." Maya's appetite disappeared. "They're looking for me?" "You were seen talking to me," Hyun-wook explained. "In their minds, that makes you either an ally or someone who knows too much. But I don't know anything. You know I was warned. You know the attack failed. You can identify at least 2 of the shooters." Hyun-wook's expression was grim. "That's enough to make you a target." Maya felt the walls of the beautiful room closing in on her. "For how long?" "Until Suzuki is no longer a threat." "And how long will that take?" Hyun-wook exchanged a look with young Jae. "I don't know." Maya stood abruptly, pacing to the window. The grounds below looked peaceful, almost pastoral, but she could see the guards now. Men in dark clothing positioned strategically around the property. "I want to go home," she said quietly. "I know." Hyun-wook's voice was closer now, and Maya realized he'd moved to stand behind her. "But home isn't safe anymore." Maya closed her eyes, feeling tears threaten. "This is all my fault." "No." Hyun-wook's hand settled gently on her shoulder. "This is mine. You were just brave enough to do the right thing." When Maya turned around, she found herself inches from his chest. This close, she could smell his cologne, something expensive and masculine, and see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "I don't understand any of this," she whispered. "You don't have to. Just trust me to keep you safe." Maya looked up at him, this dangerous, complicated man who spoke about protection and justice while holding her prisoner in a golden cage. "Why should I trust you?" Hyun-wook's thumb traced her cheek, the gesture surprisingly tender. "Because you already did, last night when you warned me." Before Maya could respond, young Jae cleared his throat. "Boss, we have a problem." Hyun-wook stepped back, his expression immediately shifting to business mode. "What is it?" "Suzuki's men hit your cousin's apartment building an hour ago. They're escalating." Maya's blood turned to ice. "Monique, is she okay?" "She wasn't there," young Jae assured her quickly. "She and her new husband left for their honeymoon this morning." Relief flooded through Maya, followed immediately by a new fear. "But they'll keep looking." "Yes," Hyun-wook said grimly. which means we need to end this quickly. As he and young Jay began discussing security protocols in rapid Korean, Maya sank back onto the bed, the full weight of her situation settling over her. She'd saved a stranger's life and lost her own freedom in the process. But as she watched Hyun-wook coordinate her protection with the efficiency of a man accustomed to command, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that her life had been heading toward this moment all along. 3 days into her captivity, Maya had established a routine that helped her maintain some semblance of sanity. Morning yoga by the window, afternoon translation work on her laptop, carefully monitored, she was sure, and evening conversations with Hyun-wook that left her more confused about him than ever. He was nothing like what she'd expected from a crime boss. He spoke 4 languages fluently, had read more literature than most college professors, and possessed an unexpected gentleness when he thought no one was watching. She'd seen him personally thank the kitchen staff in their native Spanish, help an elderly groundskeeper carry heavy equipment, and spend 20 minutes on the phone talking his nephew through a math problem. But she'd also seen the way his men looked at him, with a mixture of respect and fear that spoke to a darker side she hadn't witnessed yet. This evening was different, though. Hyun-wook seemed tense, distracted, and when he joined her for dinner on the terrace overlooking the gardens, Maya could see the strain in his shoulders. "Bad day?" she asked, pouring him tea from the delicate porcelain set that had become part of their ritual. Suzuki made another move. Hyun-wook accepted the cup, his fingers brushing hers briefly. "He's getting desperate." "What kind of move?" Hyun-wook was quiet for a moment, studying her face. "He took out one of my legitimate businesses, a restaurant in Koreatown that employed mostly single mothers." Maya's chest tightened. "Were people hurt?" "No, but 15 women lost their jobs and the message was clear." His jaw clenched. "He's trying to draw me out by hurting innocent people." "I'm sorry," Maya said softly, and she meant it. Despite everything, she'd begun to understand that Hyun-wook's world wasn't black and white. The people who worked for him seemed genuinely loyal, not just afraid, and the businesses he protected provided real services to the community. "It's not your fault, isn't it? If I hadn't warned you, then I'd be dead, and Suzuki would be expanding his territory unopposed." Hyun-wook set down his teacup and looked directly at her. "You did the right thing, Maya. Don't doubt that." The conviction in his voice made something warm unfurl in Maya's chest. "How do you do it?" she asked. "Live with all this violence, all this uncertainty?" "The same way you've lived with uncertainty your whole life," he replied, surprising her. "You adapt. You find strength you didn't know you had." Maya frowned. "What do you mean?" Hyun-wook leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. 17 foster homes between the ages of 5 and 18. Parents died in a car accident when you were young. You aged out of the system with nothing but a high school diploma and a gift for languages. Maya's blood chilled. "You had no right to investigate my past." "I had every right. You're under my protection now." His voice softened. "But that's not why I looked into your background." "Then why?" "Because I needed to understand how someone develops the kind of courage you showed that night. How someone risks everything for a stranger." Hyun-wook leaned forward, his eyes intense. "Do you know what I found?" Maya shook her head, not trusting her voice. "A woman who's been taking care of herself since she was a child, who learned languages as a way to connect with people when she had no family, who's never had anyone to protect her, so she learned to protect others instead." Tears pricked Maya's eyes. "Stop. You've been alone your whole life, haven't you?" The question hit like a physical blow. Maya stood abruptly, moving to the terrace railing. "That's not your business." "It is now." Hyun-wook's voice was closer, and Maya realized he'd followed her. "Because you're not alone anymore." Maya laughed, but it came out broken. "I'm your prisoner. You're under my protection." "What's the difference?" "The difference," Hyun-wook said quietly, "is that I would die before I let anyone hurt you." Maya turned to face him, searching his expression for any sign of deception. What she found instead was raw honesty that took her breath away. "Why?" she whispered. Hyun-wook reached up to cup her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. "Because you saw me as human before you knew who I was. Because you warned me without expecting anything in return. Because when I look at you, I remember what it feels like to want to be a better man." Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Hyun-wook, I know this situation isn't ideal. I know you didn't choose this. His other hand came up to frame her face completely. But I can't regret having you here. I can't regret knowing you. The air between them crackled with tension, and Maya found herself leaning into his touch, despite every rational thought screaming at her to pull away. "This is crazy," she breathed. "Yes," he agreed, his thumb tracing her lower lip. "It is." Before Maya could lose her nerve, she rose on her toes and kissed him. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, but when Hyun-wook responded with a low groan, pulling her closer, it deepened into something desperate and hungry. Maya had never felt anything like the fire that spread through her veins, the way her entire world narrowed to the feeling of his lips on hers, his hands tangling in her hair. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Hyun-wook rested his forehead against hers. "Maya," he said, her name like a prayer on his lips. "I know," she whispered. "I know this is complicated and dangerous and probably stupid, but I—" "Boss!" Young Jae's urgent voice cut through the moment like a knife. "We have a problem." Hyun-wook immediately stepped in front of Maya, his body language shifting to protective mode. "What is it?" Young Jae appeared on the terrace, his expression grim. "Suzuki's people found the safe house on Peachtree. They're moving faster than we anticipated." "How many of our people were there?" 6. "They got out, but barely." Young Jae glanced at Maya, then back to his boss. "Sir, there's something else. We intercepted communications suggesting they have inside information." Maya felt Hyun-wook go rigid. "A mole. It's the only explanation for how quickly they're tracking our movements." Hyun-wook was quiet for a long moment, and Maya could practically see his mind working through possibilities and implications. "Double the security here. No one gets in or out without my personal authorization." "Already done." Young Jae hesitated. "Boss, if there's a leak in the organization, then we find it and eliminate it." Hyun-wook's voice was cold, and Maya caught a glimpse of the dangerous man beneath the gentle facade. "No one threatens what's mine." As Young Jae hurried away to implement new security measures, Maya found herself staring at Hyun-wook's profile. The tender man who'd kissed her moments ago had vanished, replaced by someone harder, more ruthless. "Is this what your life is always like?" she asked quietly. Hyun-wook turned back to her, his expression softening slightly. "Yes. This is why I tried to stay away from attachments." "Attachments?" He stepped closer, his hand finding hers. "You, Maya. You're my attachment now. My weakness." "That's not very romantic." Hyun-wook's smile was rueful. "Nothing about my world is romantic. But what I feel for you." He brought her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. "That's real. That's worth protecting." As if summoned by his words, Maya's phone buzzed from inside the house, the first time she'd heard it in days. Hyun-wook tensed immediately. "Stay here," he commanded, moving toward the sound, but Maya was already following him, dread pooling in her stomach. When they reached the living room, Young Jae was holding her phone, his face pale. "It's a text," he said grimly. "From an unknown number." Hyun-wook took the phone and read the message aloud. "We know where you are, little translator. Come alone to the address we're sending, or we start killing everyone you've ever cared about. You have 2 hours." Maya's legs gave out, and she sank onto the nearest chair. "They're going to kill people because of me." "No," Hyun-wook said firmly, kneeling in front of her. "They're going to try. There's a difference. You can't stop them all. Watch me." The absolute certainty in his voice should have been comforting, but Maya could see the calculation in his eyes, the way he was already planning something dangerous. "What are you thinking?" she asked, though she was afraid of the answer. Hyun-wook's smile was sharp as a blade. "I'm thinking it's time to end this war." Maya stared at the address on her phone screen, her hands trembling as the reality of the situation sank in. The warehouse district, abandoned, isolated, perfect for an ambush. "Absolutely not," Hyun-wook said for the 3rd time, pacing the length of his office like a caged predator. "You're not going anywhere near that place." "They'll kill innocent people," Maya protested, rising from the leather chair where she'd been sitting. My friend Jasmine, my landlord, maybe even my cousin, and if you walk into that warehouse, they'll kill you too. Hyun-wook stopped pacing and fixed her with an intense stare. Then they'll still go after everyone else, because dead witnesses can't identify them. Maya felt tears of frustration burning behind her eyes. So what's your solution? Hide here forever while people die because of me? My solution, Hyun-wook said, moving to stand directly in front of her, is to eliminate the threat at its source. Young Jae looked up from the tactical map spread across the desk. Boss, I've run the scenarios. The warehouse has too many entry points, too many places for snipers. It's a kill box. Which is exactly why we're not playing by their rules. Hyun-wook's voice was cold, calculating. Suzuki wants a war, he'll get one. Maya watched the exchange with growing dread. What are you planning? Something you don't need to worry about. Don't treat me like a child, Maya snapped, surprising herself with her vehemence. I'm the reason this is happening. I have a right to know. Hyun-wook studied her for a long moment, then nodded to young Jae, who reluctantly left the office. When they were alone, he moved to the window overlooking the grounds. Suzuki's been trying to draw me into open conflict for months, he said quietly. He knows that in a direct war, he'll lose. My organization is stronger, better connected. But if he can make me emotional, make me act rashly, he wins, Maya finished. Exactly. Hyun-wook turned back to her. Which is why I'm not going to save you, Maya. The words hit like a physical blow. What? I'm going to let him think he has you, let him believe he's won. Hyun-wook's expression was unreadable. And then I'm going to destroy him. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. You're using me as bait. I'm using his arrogance against him. That's the same thing. No, Hyun-wook said, moving closer. Bait is expendable. You're not. Before Maya could respond, the office door burst open. Myung-ho Han, one of Hyun-wook's senior lieutenants, stood in the doorway with barely controlled fury on his face. This is insane, he said in Korean, apparently forgetting that Maya could understand every word. You're risking everything for one woman. Watch your tone, Hyun-wook replied in the same language, his voice deadly quiet. The men are talking, Myung-ho continued, switching to English with a sharp glance at Maya. They're saying you've gone soft, that you're making decisions with your heart instead of your head. Maya felt the tension in the room ratchet up several degrees. Maybe I should leave you two to stay, Hyun-wook commanded without taking his eyes off Myung-ho. This concerns you. Myung-ho's jaw clenched. Sir, with respect, this woman has been here less than a week and already she's caused more problems than what? Hyun-wook's voice was dangerously soft. Than the 15 years you've been taking my money and questioning my judgment. I've been loyal to this organization since before she was even loyal. Hyun-wook laughed, but there was no humor in it. Is that what you call undermining my authority? Spreading dissent among the ranks? Maya watched in horror as understanding dawned on Hyun-wook's face. It's you, he said quietly. You're the mole. Myung-ho's hand moved toward his jacket, but young Jae appeared behind him with lightning speed, pressing a gun to the back of his head. I wouldn't, young Jae said calmly. How long? Hyun-wook asked, his voice eerily calm. Myung-ho straightened, his expression defiant. 6 months, since you started going soft, caring more about protecting civilians than expanding territory. And Suzuki pays better than loyalty? Suzuki understands that power is the only thing that matters, not some misguided sense of honor. Maya felt sick. You told them about the safe house. About me. Myung-ho's smile was cold. You're a weakness he can't afford. I was trying to eliminate the problem. The words were barely out of his mouth before Hyun-wook moved, crossing the room in 2 strides and slamming Myung-ho against the wall. Maya had never seen anyone move that fast, that violently. You betrayed your family, Hyun-wook said, his voice deadly quiet. You put her in danger. She's not family, Myung-ho gasped. She's an outsider who's made you weak. Hyun-wook's hand tightened around Myung-ho's throat. You're right about one thing. She has changed me. His eyes were black with fury. She's made me realize that some things are worth protecting, even if it means burning everything else down. Maya watched in fascination and terror as Hyun-wook's mask of civilization slipped completely. This was the man who commanded fear and respect in the criminal underworld, and she was seeing him unleashed. Boss, young Jae said quietly, What are your orders? Hyun-wook was silent for a long moment, his hand still around Myung-ho's throat. Then he stepped back, his expression cold as winter. Take him to the basement, I'll deal with him later. He turned to Maya and she saw something that chilled her, absolute ruthlessness. Right now, we have a war to finish. As young Jae dragged Myung-ho away, Maya found herself alone with a man who'd just revealed the full extent of his dangerous nature. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt something else entirely. Are you afraid of me now? Hyun-wook asked quietly. Maya considered the question seriously. I should be. But you're not. No. She moved closer to him, studying his face. I'm afraid for you. Hyun-wook's expression softened slightly. Maya, you said I've changed you, made you weak. She reached up to touch his cheek. But what if I've actually made you stronger? How? Because now you have something worth fighting for that isn't just territory or power. Maya's voice was steady, despite the chaos of the last few minutes. You have someone who believes you can be better than what this world expects you to be. Hyun-wook caught her hand, pressing it flat against his chest where she could feel his heart racing. You still want to trust me? After what you just saw? I saw you protect what matters to you. I saw you choose justice over convenience. Maya stepped closer. I saw the man I'm falling in love with. The admission hung between them like a live wire. Hyun-wook's eyes widened, and for a moment, the dangerous crime boss disappeared entirely, replaced by a man who looked like he'd just been handed something precious and fragile. Maya, he breathed, I know it's crazy. I know this whole situation is impossible. Maya's voice was barely above a whisper. But I can't help how I feel. Hyun-wook pulled her against him, his arms wrapping around her like he could shield her from the world. You have no idea what you mean to me. Then show me, Maya said, looking up at him. End this war. Not for revenge or territory, but because you want a future where we don't have to hide. Hyun-wook's smile was fierce and tender at the same time. You want to see what I'm really capable of? Yes. Then stay close to me tonight, because Akira Suzuki is about to learn what happens when someone threatens what's mine. As if summoned by his words, young Jae returned with a tactical vest and weapons. Boss, the teams are in position. We're ready to move. Maya felt her heart stop. You're going after him tonight? We're going after him tonight, Hyun-wook corrected, accepting the vest from young Jae. You wanted to be part of this? Then you're going to see exactly who I am when someone I love is threatened. The word love hit Maya like a lightning bolt, but before she could respond, Hyun-wook was already moving, transforming into the strategic commander who'd built an empire. The war was about to end, and Maya was about to discover just how far a dangerous man would go to protect the woman who'd saved his life. The abandoned warehouse loomed against the Atlanta skyline like a monument to decay, its broken windows reflecting the city lights like dead eyes. Maya sat in the passenger seat of Hyun-wook's armored vehicle, her heart hammering as she watched his teams take their positions through the tactical display on the dashboard. You don't have to do this, Hyun-wook said quietly, his voice coming through the comm system. He was positioned on a rooftop across the street, and Maya could see the red dot of his scope's laser dancing across the warehouse's main entrance. Yes, I do, Maya replied, adjusting the wire hidden beneath her jacket. This started because I saved your life. It ends with me saving it again. Maya, his voice was rough with emotion, if something goes wrong, it won't. Maya forced confidence into her voice. You won't let it. Through her earpiece she heard young Jae's voice. Target acquired. Suzuki's inside with at least 12 men. Ryo Hayashi is positioned as a sniper on the east side. Maya took a deep breath and stepped out of the vehicle. The night air was cold against her skin, and every instinct screamed at her to run. But she thought about Jasmine, about her cousin Monique, about all the innocent people who would suffer if this war continued. She thought about Hyun-wook, and how he'd looked at her when she'd told him she was falling in love with him. I'm moving, she said quietly, walking toward the warehouse entrance. The main door was slightly ajar, spilling yellow light onto the cracked pavement. Maya pushed it open and stepped inside, immediately hit by the smell of rust and motor oil. The warehouse was mostly empty, except for some old shipping containers and machinery covered in tarps. Welcome, little translator. Akira Suzuki emerged from behind one of the containers, flanked by 6 men in dark suits. He was younger than Maya had expected, maybe early 40s, with silver-streaked hair and cold eyes that reminded her of a shark's. "Mr. Suzuki," Maya said, proud that her voice didn't shake. "You're braver than I expected, or more foolish." Suzuki smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Where is your protector? I was hoping Kim would be man enough to come himself. He doesn't negotiate with terrorists." Suzuki laughed. "Terrorists? I'm a businessman. Miss Mitchell, Kim is the one who's been disrupting legitimate commerce in this city." "Legitimate commerce?" Maya couldn't keep the disgust out of her voice. "Is that what you call human trafficking? I call it supply and demand." Suzuki's expression hardened. "But enough philosophy. You're here because you have something I want." "Information about Hyun-wook's operations." "Exactly." Suzuki began walking in a slow circle around her, like a predator sizing up prey. "You've been living in his house, sleeping in his bed. You must have seen files, heard conversations." Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I haven't been sleeping in his bed." "No? How disappointing for him." Suzuki stopped directly in front of her. "But you have been observing, learning. A woman with your linguistic skills would pick up quite a bit." Through her earpiece, Maya heard Hyun-wook's voice. "Teams in position, on my signal." "I don't know anything useful," Maya said aloud. "I think you're being modest." Suzuki gestured to one of his men who produced a tablet. Bank account numbers, safe house locations, the names of his contacts in law enforcement. "Surely you've heard something." Maya stared at the tablet, her mind racing. She could give him false information, but he'd verify it before letting her go. She could refuse, but then he'd probably torture her for the real details. Or she could trust that the man she'd fallen in love with would keep his promise. "You're right," Maya said finally. "I do know something." Suzuki leaned forward eagerly. "Yes?" Maya smiled, and for the first time since entering the warehouse she felt truly calm. "I know that you're about to lose everything." Suzuki's expression shifted to confusion, then alarm, as the warehouse lights suddenly cut out, plunging them into darkness. Emergency lighting kicked in a second later, casting everything in an eerie red glow. "What?" Suzuki began, but his words were cut off by the sound of shattering glass as smoke grenades crashed through the skylights. "Maya! Down!" Hyun-wook's voice barked through her earpiece. Maya dropped to the floor as chaos erupted around her. The smoke was thick and acrid, making her eyes water, but she could hear the sharp crack of gunfire and shouted orders in Korean and Japanese. Through the haze, she saw muzzle flashes and moving shadows. Suzuki's men were firing blindly, their formation broken by the surprise attack. Maya crawled toward what looked like cover behind a shipping container, her heart pounding. "Northeast corner. 2 targets down." Young Jay's voice came through the comm. "Sniper eliminated," another voice reported. "Where's Suzuki?" Hyun-wook demanded. Maya peered around the container and saw a figure moving toward the back of the warehouse. Suzuki, trying to escape through what must be a rear exit. "He's heading for the back door," Maya whispered into her mic. "I see him," Hyun-wook replied. "Stay down." But Maya was already moving, driven by an instinct she didn't fully understand. Suzuki had caused all of this pain. Threatened innocent people, turned her life upside down. She wasn't going to let him escape to do it again. She reached the back of the warehouse just as Suzuki was pushing open an emergency exit. Without thinking, Maya grabbed a heavy wrench from a nearby workbench and swung it at his knees. Suzuki went down with a cry of pain and rage, the gun in his hand skittering across the floor. He rolled over, his face twisted with fury. "You little—" "Maya!" She turned to see Hyun-wook emerging from the smoke, his weapon trained on Suzuki. His tactical vest was torn, and there was blood on his cheek, but his eyes were blazing with protective fury. "Step away from him," Hyun-wook commanded. Maya quickly moved to his side, and Hyun-wook immediately positioned himself between her and Suzuki, who was struggling to stand with his injured leg. "It's over, Akira," Hyun-wook said quietly. Suzuki laughed bitterly. "You think killing me ends this? I have allies, other families who will be very interested to learn about your side businesses," Hyun-wook interrupted. "Human trafficking isn't popular with the traditional families. They prefer to keep their crimes cleaner." Suzuki's face went pale. You wouldn't dare. I already have. The evidence has been delivered to your superiors in Tokyo. Hyun-wook's smile was cold. You're not just defeated, Akira, you're disowned. The sound of approaching sirens filled the air, and Maya saw red and blue lights flashing through the broken windows. Police, she asked. Anonymous tip about a human trafficking operation, young Jay said, appearing beside them with several other team members. They'll find enough evidence to put Suzuki away for life. You can't prove anything, Suzuki snarled. I don't have to, Hyun-wook replied. Your own people will handle justice. I just made sure you'd be in a cage where you can't hurt anyone else while they decide your fate. As the police stormed the warehouse, Hyun-wook's team melted away like shadows, leaving only Maya and Hyun-wook standing over Suzuki. We need to go, Hyun-wook said, taking Maya's hand. They slipped out through the rear exit just as the police reached the back of the warehouse. Hyun-wook led her to where young Jay was waiting with a car, and within minutes they were driving away from the chaos. Is it really over? Maya asked as they sped through the empty streets. It's over, Hyun-wook confirmed, bringing her hand to his lips. Suzuki's organization is finished, and the threat to you is eliminated. Maya leaned back against the seat, suddenly exhausted. What happens now? Hyun-wook was quiet for a moment. Now you get your life back, your apartment, your work, your freedom. Something in his tone made Maya's chest tighten. And us? Maya. Hyun-wook's voice was carefully controlled. You never chose this world. You were forced into it. Now that you're safe, you can go back to your real life. What if I don't want to? Hyun-wook looked at her in surprise. What? Maya turned in her seat to face him fully. What if I choose you? What if I choose this? Whatever this is between us. You don't understand what you're saying. My world is dangerous, complicated, and you're part of it. Maya reached up to touch his cheek, feeling the rough stubble beneath her fingers. You said I changed you. Well, you changed me too. You showed me what it feels like to be protected, to be loved. Hyun-wook caught her hand, pressing it against his face. Maya, I can't ask you to... You're not asking. I'm choosing. Maya's voice was steady, certain. I'm choosing you, Hyun-wook Kim. All of you. Hyun-wook stared at her for a long moment, and Maya saw the exact instant when his careful control cracked. He pulled her against him, his lips finding hers in a kiss that was desperate and tender and full of promises. You appeared at that wedding in a borrowed dress, he murmured against her lips, and you saved my life in more ways than one. So what happens now? Maya asked. Hyun-wook's smile was soft and real and completely hers. Now we figure out how to build a life together. A real life, where you're not my prisoner or my responsibility. What am I then? You're my heart, he said simply. You're my future. You're the woman I want to wake up next to every morning for the rest of my life. Maya felt tears of joy prick her eyes. I love you too, even knowing who I am, what I've done, especially knowing who you are. Maya kissed him again, soft and sweet. You're the man who protects people who can't protect themselves. You're the man who chose love over revenge. You're the man who kept me safe when I had no one else. As the car carried them toward their new beginning, Maya reflected on how much her life had changed in just 1 week. She'd gone to her cousin's wedding, feeling like an outsider, wearing a borrowed dress and carrying the weight of a lifetime of loneliness. She was leaving as a woman who'd found her place in the world, in the arms of a man who saw her as precious beyond measure. Sometimes the most beautiful love stories began with the most impossible circumstances, and sometimes saving someone else's life was really about saving your own. 6 months later, Maya stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of their new penthouse apartment, watching the Atlanta skyline sparkle in the evening light. The view was breathtaking, but what made her smile was the reflection she could see behind her. Hyun-wook in the kitchen, carefully plating the Korean fusion dinner he'd spent the afternoon preparing. You know I can cook too, she called out, not turning around. I know, he replied, and she could hear the smile in his voice, but I like taking care of you. Maya turned to watch him work, still amazed by how domestic he looked in jeans and a simple button-down shirt, his sleeves rolled up and his hair slightly mussed. It was hard to believe this was the same man who commanded one of the most powerful organizations in the Southeast, though that was changing too. Over the past 6 months, Hyun-wook had been systematically legitimizing his business operations, moving away from the grey areas that had once defined his empire. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't fast, but Maya saw the peace it brought him. "How was the translation conference?" he asked, carrying their plates to the dining table. "Productive. I got 3 new corporate clients." Maya joined him, accepting the glass of wine he poured for her. "And I may have found our first candidate." Hyun-wook raised an eyebrow. "For the foundation?" Maya nodded. The Kim Mitchell Foundation for Linguistic Education was still in the planning stages, but they'd already identified their mission, providing language education and translation services to immigrant communities and trafficking survivors. A young woman from El Salvador. She's brilliant with languages but can't afford formal training. "Set up a meeting," Hyun-wook said immediately. "We'll make it work." Maya reached across the table to take his hand. "I love that you say we now." "We're a team," he said simply, bringing her hand to his lips. "In everything." As they shared dinner and planned their future, Maya thought about the borrowed dress hanging in her closet, the one she'd worn to Monique's wedding. She'd kept it as a reminder of the night that changed everything, the night she'd saved a stranger's life and found her own in the process. Sometimes the most beautiful beginnings came from the most unexpected places, and sometimes love really could conquer everything.